So this is the summary for weeks 1 and 2. So summaries will also always come at the end of the week and will help you gather all the information you have collected this week into one coherent program that you can observe, so you can have a feel of how to use the information you have collected this week in practice in a program. One of the goals is also to prepare you, to give you one final preparation for the homework. So it's really your bridge between the theory or the information I give you and the homework. So if you're stuck on the homework, always refer back to the summary. So this week, there is only one homework, and it's on Roman numerals. So I figured a good summary might be to manipulate strings, to do conditionals, and to do some arithmetic operations. So all this together is summarized with a program to convert a number in Arabic numerals to a number written as a string in base 32. So let's see the program now. Actually, I got it wrong. Sorry about that. I'll go the other way around. I'll go from a number that is given as a string in base 32 all the way to an integer given as an Arabic numeral. So, okay, as input I have a string here, and let's say I call that string 3D, or this is the value. So again, this is in base 32. So how does that work? How will the 32, how can 3D be interpreted in base 32? Well, in base 10, I would need 10 symbols. In base 32, I need 32 symbols. So the 32 symbols I'll use are from 0 to 9, and then after that, I need more symbols. I need 22 more symbols. And I'll use the symbols A all the way to W, so all those letters in capital, in uppercase. So 32 would correspond, so A in base 32 would correspond to 10 in decimal, W in base 32 would correspond to 31. And we also adopt the usual convention that the digits to the right have the lowest weight. Okay, so this is like you do in decimal. If you write 17, 7 is bigger than 1, but because it's on the right, it has a lower weight than the 1, which has really a weight of 10. Okay, so because we have not seen functions yet, we have to use a little mechanism to simulate a function if you want, and it will be the same in your homework. So I'll assume that some variable input has been given a value, and in this case input here has been given the value 3D. So, and then I'll perform a computation, and all the way at the end the variable output should have a value assigned to it, which will be an integer, and then I'll ask Python to print the number input in base 32 corresponds to output in decimal, of course substituting for input and output the actual values. Okay, so maybe we should run it first a little bit and see what happens here in Python. So the number 3D in base 32 corresponds to 109 in decimal. Very good. So how could we figure this out? First, at the math level, how could we figure out what 3D corresponds to? Well, this D corresponds to a certain value in decimal, in the usual Arabic numerals, and the 3 corresponds to a different value. So we could start with 0 and then add to that 0 the value corresponding to D as an integer and the value corresponding to that 3 as an integer. And okay, that's fine. And each time the weight would have to increase, and the weight would have to be multiplied by 32, right? So the weight of something here is 32 times smaller than the weight here, or vice versa. The weight of something here is 32 times bigger than the weight of something here. Okay, so how do we do all this? Well, we have to be careful because we'll use the function ord to translate from a character to an actual number, but the convention we've chosen that 0 to 9 is followed by A to W does not correspond to the convention that is used in ord. So to get around this, we'll have to use if and else and do things like that to get around this problem. In addition, we have to extract each individual character from input. So this is maybe the first interesting line is here, high, low equals input. So this will take the highest digit and assign it to high, and the lowest digit and assign it to low. Of course, what it does has nothing to do with the names I've given here, high, low. It's just because I've taken one variable name, comma, another variable name, that Python takes this input and tries to convert it here. Try to make this input into two variables. Okay, I've also prepared temp to be 0 because this will be the variable that will be incremented to account for the value. Okay, so with you, I'll go over what happens for the low digit only, and I'll leave the high digit for you to look at in detail. So I've now the value D in that low digit, but I want a general program that will work for any input, right? I want it to work if I change this input. So what should I do? Well, I know that if basically this character that corresponds to low is anywhere between A and W, then it should correspond to something between 10 and 31 in value. So what I can do is I can test that the ordering value of low is between the ordering value of A and the ordering value of W, the ASCII value, if you want, of A and W. And if that's the case, then I know that the value should be somewhere between 10 and 31. And that value should be exactly 10 when low is A and exactly 31 when low is W. So this little formula will help me do the affine transformation that I need to get the right value of temp. And this is augmented assignment. It means compute the value here and the value here and add it to temp. Now this deals with any low digit between A and W. I still have to deal with the low digits between 0 and 9. So that I do with an elif. So if the low digit is between the ASCII ordering of the character 0 and the ASCII ordering of the character 9, then I should add to the value temp this little linear transformation of the ASCII ordering of low. Okay, so this is doing some test, but the test might fail if the input is malicious or does not correspond to what I expect. So in this case, I write a little else clause, and this else will catch any clause that is not called before. And in this case, I'll just print that the low digit is not valid. Okay, so this will deal with the low digit, and the high digit will be essentially the same, but multiplied by 32 for the weight of the digit that you add. And this gives me a final value of output here that is given from temp, and then I can print it. So I suggest you really look at this in detail if you have trouble with your homework, because the ideas are very similar to the ideas behind the Roman numerals homework.